Today, for Talk That Matters, I'm chatting with my buddy Steve. Steve Reilly is the leader of our young adult ministry at church. He's an avid student of philosophy and apologetics. He's a software developer, and he's a major nerd. The Mandalorian. That's a TV show.
It is. And it's great.
It's great. We've been watching it. I want to talk about it. I think there's a lot of interesting topics in that show, but I'm not a nerd. No, I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I'm an other kind of nerd. So I brought in an expert. I don't know if you're an expert, but tell us a little bit about the background of this world that the Mandalorian is setting.
Sure, yeah. It's definitely a very broad term to use, expert, for Star Wars, but I'm a pretty big fan. So yeah, the world or the lore that you have is, of course, the Mandalorian is part of the culture of Mandalore, which is their homeworld.
Okay.
Mandalore was based off of, it's very akin to like ancient Sparta, very warrior-based culture, tribal-based, where there was always fighting.
And is this fighting between people like Mandalorians, or is this fighting with outsiders?
Oh, everybody, right? Like
fighting with everybody.
Mandalorians fighting Mandalorians fighting Jedi.
So like a house full of brothers.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, except then they also go out and fight other people too.
Right.
To the point where, they sack the Jedi Temple at one point. And steal this crazy cool lightsaber. So yeah.
So you were telling me earlier they have a particular weapon against the Jedi. It's this Beskar, right?
Yeah, that's why this Beskar medal is such a big deal, is because, and you've seen it in the show, he can take a blaster hit and it just kind of knocks him down. In the same way it can turn a lightsaber blade. So like it gave them the capability to kind of go toe to toe with the Jedi, because they're just space wizards.
Yeah, how do you fight space wizards?
Magic space metal. Is the answer, and
life lessons.
Yeah, so it's just so that way they're just not immediately being cut down like you see all the stormtroopers in the movie.
Okay, so you have this group, this warrior group, but then you have the whole rise of the Empire, and they ended up siding with the Empire, right? Or
yeah, so there was a little bit of back and forth. So during the Clone Wars, they actually went through a pacifist movement. And then there was some contention because they exiled all the warriors to the moon of their planet. And so ultimately they sided with the separatists, and then eventually to fight the pacifists. And then eventually the culture on the planet sided with the Empire when it was formed.
Yeah.
Only to find out, of course, surprise, surprise, the Empire is doing evil things, right?
That's what they do.
Right? That they've developed this weapon, and this weapon is specifically targeted towards Beskar. So
which is the metal
the
suit
special Beskar that only the Mandalorians have. So it's like the weapon that can only be used against your people is specifically targeted at you. There was no way for them to be like, oh yeah, we were gonna use that for something else,
for another warrior race wearing Beskar in our backyard.
And so at that point, the Mandalorian tribes then break away from the Empire. And rise up to kind of fight back. They don't regain their homeworld.
Yeah.
And we see that in The Mandalorian, that, they talk about how the Empire is still in control of their homeworld. But they definitely were anti-Empire at that point, and that all goes down in the Star Wars Rebels Disney cartoon series.
Dysfunctional set of words there in that sentence.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know any of that stuff, but I came into this show, it's just this one main character who wears a suit of armor, a super cool mask, and he kind of wanders around to like Clint Eastwood music and landscapes, but in space cowboys and things. And he's a bounty hunter, and he's super, super like serious and cool. He doesn't say very much. He just like shoots people. And so it got me thinking, like, to start with, in this world of bounty hunters, like, what is justice? Like when you can pay for one person to kill another person, but then they will weave in these things like, like talking about the code, and then also talking about like, it is the way. They're implying there's some agreed upon social justice. And so I want to talk about a couple of those. One of them feels like what this agreed on, like, lowest common denominator is, I'm going to do what you hired me to do.
Yeah. Be true to your word.
I'm going to be true to my word. No questions asked. You pay me money. I kill this guy.
Yep.
And I was like, that's a crappy morality, but it rings really, really true. Like, it feels like the business world we live in. It's like, I'm going to pay you money. You're going to do this job. We're not friends.
Right.
You know. But it is kind of, it's like the lowest form of moral code.
Right. But to your same point there, we see scripturally too that truth is important, truth is good.
That's true.
So following your word is good.
Yeah.
Right? But following my word to in a paid transaction to go murder people.
That's right. I said I would murder him, and I'm gonna do it. You know, it's like, okay, well, maybe you have some misplaced priorities. Like, and so on the one hand, keeping your word seems really valuable, but on the other hand, if you only keep your word because you're protecting your pride and your image, which is like, there's a physical representation. He's wearing a helmet that he will never take off. You know, it's like, and I just think how perfect that is. Like, we literally have people who are like, I will never, ever say I was wrong. You know, like, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's a leap. I don't know. But, so you have this warrior race, this group of people that basically have been totally displaced in the process of the revolution and or the rebellion and the empire, and you know, and where does this group of people fit in? Where is their moral code fit in? So he's just basically like adrift. He's a drifter,
right?
And he's got this moral code, which is, I'm going to kill the people when someone else pays me. I'm going to keep my word. But it's an icky kind of setup. What is it that kind of shakes him up?
Well, he gets challenged by that by two things, right? We know the first is in the first episode when he finds out that the target, right, is a child.
Right.
And we know that he was adopted into this Mandalorian culture as a child because his parents were killed. At least that seems super evident.
Seems to be what happened.
Hasn't been 100% confirmed, but seems very likely.
Lots of flashbacks implying this.
Right, and he talks about taking care of the foundlings. And so we know that taking care of the weak is very important to his character.
Yeah.
But where it's really challenged is when he does stick to his moral code, right? Like, he turns the child in, you know, and what is the name of that episode, I think, is called The Sin.
Yes. It's literally called The Sin.
I love that. And you know, he ends up getting his whole idea changed because he's fighting the big, you know, space rhino thing, the Mudhorn.
Space rhinos, space armor, space wizards.
That's right.
I mean, I can see why. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No. We want to make it accessible for everybody. Not everybody's going to know the Mudhorn. Although that's its name. And technically it's not Baby Yoda, it's the child. But we're going to call it Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
So, you know, Baby Yoda stops the Mudhorn from basically killing him by using the Force. And when he's being asked about how this went down later on, where they're forging his armor, they want to give him this symbol and say, your symbol is the Mudhorn because you beat this beast.
That's right.
Right?
Strength, right?
Right. Yeah. Strength again. You beat this giant beast. Good job. And he says, no, I can't take that because I was helped. And they say, well, who helped you?
Yeah.
And he says, an enemy.
Yeah. I love the way it flips everything on its head. The Mandalorian is strong, but in this moment, he is weak. Baby Yoda is an enemy who comes in weakness and stops the Mudhorn literally for his hired assassin. The one who's been hired to come and assassinate him. And so it feels very messianic. It feels very much that, like, while we were Christ's enemies, he came and died for us. It turns everything on its head, and what we thought was weakness is actually strength. And what has been brought up as strength is actually incredibly weak, and the thing that wakes up his morality, a deeper desire to actually help the weak and, like, use his strength for something other than, like, just survival.
Right.
The thing that wakes him up is this moment of mercy and sacrifice. Like, and so I just feel like there's so much to talk about in the show, and it's really interesting, and we've given a few spoilers, and I don't care. But I just think it brings up for me this question, like, what is strength? Like, what does it mean to use strength? Does it mean, like, do you prove your strength by the way you step on people? You know, do you prove your strength by the way that you rise to the top and can bend people to your will? Or is there another definition of strength that almost is more powerful? Like, if your strength is actually used to lift up the weak and the defenseless, like, and the foundlings, the ones who have no parents, the one who have no home, like, that becomes like the springboard for the whole journey. And there's a lot going on. Like, these are complex characters. It's not like suddenly they're all great. Like, it's messy, and he's got baggage. You know?
Certainly. His whole culture has baggage, right? Like, there's the throwdown where they're fighting because he's just did a job for the Empire.
Yeah.
You know, which obviously ruffled some feathers.
A few.
You know, but that's what they're used to. He's following this code of strength, of I'm going to keep to my word, and then we keep seeing this definition of strength, or even of what is good, evolve based off what we know. And it's very close and very clear to what we see in Scripture, because, you know, we can talk about the complexity of how we define strength in the Mandalorian and how they define it, but we see it very clearly when Jesus tells us that, you know, the least of us is going to be the highest. And and that's what ultimately we get to. Strength isn't for me to use for myself.
That's right.
You know, strength is me being able to help others. Yeah,
strength is my ability to lift up those in need.
Right.
And you know, so there's some really, I mean, there's a big throwdown, there's a posse, there's light blasters, you know, that's not what they're called, because I'm not a nerd.
That's fine.
But you know, and so you do wonder, like, is honor about protecting my friends, or is it deeper than that? Is strength about winning a fight, or is it deeper than that? You know, like, is it about mastering the Force, or is it deeper than sort of manipulating the tools at your disposal?
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of nuance there. One of my favorite characters, right, other than obviously the Mandalorian, I love him, is Cara Dune. She's the Republic shock trooper.
Okay.
You know,
she's pretty imposing.
Yeah, she can beat me up.
For sure.
No pretense. She's actually like an MMA fighter in real life too.
I didn't know that.
So that's why
the moves are legit.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably legitimately beating up, you know, the stunt double that's in the Mandalorian. Yeah, you know. But I love her character because when they introduce her, you know, she was fighting for the Republic, the rebellion, which is good, right? The good guys.
Yes.
And ultimately, she gets upset with what they're doing because she turns into policing,
right,
as opposed to, you know, helping liberate these people.
That's right. And that happens all the time, doesn't it? You know, like, where something starts with a good intention. I'm going to use this strength in order to do a good thing, but you end up, you know, becoming a manipulator of people and of situations, and so there's got to be a deeper moral code.
Yeah, and it's tricky to honor that. You know, one of the things, you know, I've been doing teachings on ethics and morality, you know, with the young people at church, and the big thing that we've landed to in looking at all of this is that there can't be a coherent moral code or a moral law without a moral lawgiver.
There's got to be, yeah. It can't just be your tribe has a moral code, my tribe has a moral code.
Right.
You know, they're all different. The lowest common denominator is always going to be hiring bounty hunters to kill your enemies.
Yeah, like, you know,
or some version of that.
And that's what we see. We see that we have this idea of something that we know is good. Yeah, it's good to keep your word, like we said.
Yeah.
Bounty hunter, good to keep my word. Yeah.
Maybe there's a better good.
Right. You know? But is it good to keep my word and murder? Well, okay. Well, we've run into a problem with my moral code now.
We have, you know. And so the simple sort of, you have, you know, your way is good, my way is good, as long as we just believe it with all our heart, like, it just breaks down.
Oh yeah.
It breaks down. You need an actual lawgiver. You need a moral law that is deeper and richer than just your tribe and my tribe. And so anyway, this show is given me an opportunity to sort of unpack some of those things, and it's really fun. It's pretty clean. I highly recommend it. And in the words of one of my favorite characters, I think his name is Quill, I have spoken.